I am halfway through my 6-week shift already. This is wild because it somehow feels like I just began and also like I implemented these routines a year ago. Week 3 is the perfect halfway point to recap with you. The 6-week shift is not about showing up perfectly, and it's not about having the most aesthetic routine either. I'm not coming in to film this midway point saying, my life is perfect and I've implemented everything. Because it's not perfect. It's still my actual real life. I still have kids. I still have work. I still have random things literally changing in the middle of the day. I have nights where the kids don't sleep and I wake up exhausted. I have days where nothing goes according to plan. And I think this is a part of habit building and intentional living that not enough people are talking about. So, hey, I'm Kay. I'm a habit and accountability coach. And on this channel specifically, I talk about creating a life you don't have to recover from. Today, we are stopping at this midway point to talk about what's working, what's not working, my actual numbers so far, and what I'm learning as I live out my own 6-week shift, just like my clients. Now, once again, if you're new here, I am Kay, and this is my 6-week shift framework that I work my clients through. This is not me trying to overhaul my entire personality. This is not me saying I'm starting a brand new life on Monday. This is not a productivity hack or a quick fix tip. The point of the 6-week shift is to intentionally make small changes. We live with them long enough over the 6 weeks to see if they actually fit into our real life. Because the one thing about humans is we're really good at starting over. We start a new routine, a new planner, a new workout. And for a few days, it's really exciting. But then by the time you hit week 3, that momentum, you've lost it. Real life has interrupted. And we wonder, why can't I keep going? You've heard me talk about this in other videos. You'll continue to hear me talk about this in future videos. But right now, I am trying to live out the framework I coach my clients through to try to help you get out of that starting again cycle. Each week builds on the previous week. We are creating a foundation that is steady. Week 1, it's choose your foundation. What is the habit? What are you changing? And for me, it was my health and wellness. This is what my current life needs. After a lot of travel and sickness and family things, my personal wellness had been put on the back burner. I needed to bring it forward again in a way that actually fits my real life. So the main things I chose are daily walking pad, 10 minutes is enough. Strength training, 3 days a week, but with a realistic amount of time. Quiet time, 10 minutes of reading before bed. Then macro tracking, which is on my nice to have list. Because I think one reason that we quit a lot of routines is that we make everything equally important. And then when real life happens, we can't fit them all in. So week 1, I chose what I wanted to implement. And funnily enough, I started this right around the July 4th holiday weekend. It started on June 29th. And this is exactly the normal kind of thing that would just make someone say, I'll just wait until July 6th. We wait until after the holiday, after the vacation, after the house is clean, after the kids are sleeping better, after life has calmed down. But there's always an after. There's always a this would be better timing. But week 1 is not about starting in perfect conditions. And so this was actually the perfect time for me to begin. It's saying, here's the foundation I want to build from. Does it fit real life? When the vacations, the holidays, and the sleepless nights happen. So week 2, we got into building the blueprint, refining when I could do them, where they fit best in my day, and what was my plan B for the days where everything went wrong. Because choosing a habit is one thing, but actually fitting it into your life, entirely different. For example, I noticed that the walking pad worked very well if I did it first thing in the morning, or if I paired it with something else. Like I had to answer emails. Strength training was working because I had a low entry point. I only needed to do a 10-minute workout 3 days a week, and I started small. But quiet time got a little messy because I didn't give it a time in my day. It didn't have a home or set time. Macro tracking was very similar. When I first started tracking, I was waiting until the end of the day and then trying to remember everything I ate. I realized if I break it up throughout the day and track after each meal, I'm more likely to remember what I ate. And that's good information to take in week 2 because it's not failure, it's figuring out what's working. And that's the point of building this blueprint because you're not trying to be perfect. You're collecting information about what actually fits your real life. And in the process, when I work through this with my clients, it comes with a worksheet, which you can get down below in the workbook. But if you stay till the end, I have a special offer for you. You've chosen your routine and built that foundation. I am interested in health and wellness getting into my life. Week 2, I am looking at what's a minimal version of this. If everything is going wrong, where does this fit best in my life? And so week 3 comes, and the goal of week 3 is to show up anyways. And this was perfect timing. I could not have planned it better. I had one day where everything was out of my control, timing wise. I was gone almost all day. I had a newborn session. I had a long drive there and back. It was my sister-in-law's birthday. We had a lot of things happening, and I could not get to any of my tasks until after 8:30 p.m. when the kids went to bed. And this is where it would have been really easy to say, I'm just not going to do it today because the newness has worn off. Real life is ramping up, and you're wondering, what's one day? It becomes easy to skip something, to push it off till tomorrow, or just decide I'll restart later when life's not so busy. But this is where week 3 becomes imperative because it's about coming back and showing up anyways. And this is where I want to remind you that yes, consistency is key. I say that a lot, but consistency is not always built on the biggest, most impressive version. A lot of the time, consistency is built with that minimum viable output. If I only have 10 minutes to strength train, I do 10 minutes. I was telling my body, this still matters to me and I'm showing up for it. Even if it's nothing impressive, even if I'm not building muscle, I'm building the muscle memory of I want to show up for this habit. Sometimes showing up for life means showing up for that habit. And sometimes it means remembering why the habit exists in the first place. Okay, now let's get into the actual numbers because I'm sure that's why you're here. People like to see data. So at the end of week 3, I am 21 days in. I have walked on the walking pad for at least 10 minutes, but usually more, 18 of 21 days. I completed every single strength training day. I have actual strength on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then low intensity movement on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I stuck to that. I pretty much just did longer walks on most of those days, but there was one day I did Pilates, as well as yesterday, I did a bonus super long walk, and I actually ended up hitting 20,000 steps yesterday, which is about 10 miles of movement in one day. That is my biggest step day. That was the most steps I have ever recorded since I started tracking steps in 2023. I made time for my faith 13 out of 21 days. And for macro tracking, I did track every day the first week and then 2 days a week for weeks 2 and 3, which is fine with me. And that's what I had in mind. It's enough for me to check in and make sure I'm still on track without making it the center of my life. And then I read before bed every night except for 2 nights. So 19 of 21 nights. And often I have that 10-minute set and I would definitely read more like 30 minutes. But that's what happens when you're an English major who loves books. So those are the hard numbers. They are not perfect. They are not everything every single day, but they are consistent enough to show me that these shifts are becoming part of my life. So what is working? The number one thing that's working is this walking pad. I think it's working because it is simple. I leave it in the living room. It folds under my couch. I can do it barefoot. I can do it in my pajamas. I can do it while I answer emails or read a book or do my devotionals. It doesn't require me to drive anywhere. It doesn't require me to change outfits. It doesn't even require good weather. The barrier to entry is so low. I do have my walking pad linked below with the standing desk. It is an affiliate link, but I have been loving it. I would have never hit a 20,000 step day if not for it. No pressure. What else is working? Strength training. It's working so much better now than it has in previous seasons because I lowered the drama around it. I'm using the Macro Factor workout app, which is super cool because you get to input like all the gear that you have and it creates a workout for you based on what you actually own. And I told it I wanted to start small. Yes, I have been lifting since 2014, but I told it I needed a beginner lift because I knew that I needed to just get back into it. Week 3 was the first time I increased my weight. I think that's important to note because even though these habits are small, I am still starting small within the habit. I'm not just saying I'm going to strength train 3 times a week and then immediately trying to lift like 2016K, but I'm meeting myself where I am now. And lastly, reading has also been working. It's finally something that's just for me. It helps me get off my phone and it puts one of my hobbies back into my real life instead of treating it like something that I can't get to until everyone else is taken care of. I've already finished 3 books this month, which is huge because when you're a reader and say, I'll read for 10 minutes, like I mentioned before, I definitely read more than that. So what needs adjusting? Quiet time. Going into the second half of this, I still haven't quite figured it out. Sometimes it's on the walking pad. Sometimes it's while I'm holding my daughter's hand while she falls asleep at night. I need to decide if I'm okay with it being more free flowing because it does matter to me that I don't want to leave it for that leftover time where it's easy to push it away. Leftover time is not where meaningful things thrive. So I'm going to keep paying attention to if I'm putting it off. So the other thing that I'm watching out for, that I'm spending a lot of time on that walking pad. I'm getting a lot of steps in, and that has been amazing. But I also need to make sure that I'm still giving my body true rest. So on the rest days, I want to return a little more to yoga and Pilates instead of always defaulting to a longer walk. We did yoga yesterday, and it was so nice to do something restorative for the body. So I think that will be one adjustment to the actual routine moving forward. We're not changing the whole plan. We're just noticing where it needs to bend a little. So obviously, I use this framework with my clients. So the biggest lesson is exactly what I expected it to be, but knowing it is different than living it out. That lesson, starting small and adjusting as real life comes, is what matters. I have a plan. I set the blueprint. I'm showing up anyways. I'm taking small steps forward, but I am not expecting perfection from myself. And you can see that in the numbers. None of them are perfect across the board. 18 out of 21 days walking, even though walking is working. Time for my faith, 13 out of 21 days. I even missed reading 2 nights. The one that's actually closest to perfect is strength training. And I think that's just because I made it so attainable, made it so small. But overall, this is not perfection. This is not hitting every single goal every single day. This is not me coming in and saying, hey, week 3 just ended and I fixed my life, guys. But it's me saying, I'm building a very strong foundation for what I want my life to look like. Because when plans change or your kids don't sleep, when work runs late and life throws you a curveball, I know that I'm not starting from nothing. I can practice returning to the things that matter. And that's the whole point of the 6-week shift framework. But this is also why I don't just hand you my checklist and say, here, do this. It's a perfect routine because my walking pad might not be your movement. My bedtime reading might not be your hobby. The goal is not to copy my habits. The goal is to always ask better questions about your life. What small shifts will support your life? What has a real home in your day? And what needs a smaller version to actually get it done? What are you willing to come back to when your real life gets messy? This is the work we're doing. And that is why I offer everything I've been talking about, this 6-week shift framework, in a self-paced workbook. It will walk you through the framework with real life lessons, worksheets to follow for each week so you can implement this in your life. And as a little Easter egg, thank you for staying until this part of the video. If you use code YouTube, you can get 50% off the workbook. because I believe in this actual framework that I use. And I want you to build your version instead of copying mine. Or if you want a little more community around this, if you're interested in changing your life and you don't know where to start, I also created a free Telegram group chat. You get a little bit of access to me, but mostly I'm hoping to build a community of people who are okay with slowly creating a life that they don't have to recover from. So that's where I am halfway through this 6 week shift. And now I'm going to move into the last 3 weeks, knowing that this does not have to be a perfect performance. It hasn't been perfect thus far, and it's already changing my life. It doesn't need to be impressive, but it just needs to be livable. My hope is that by the end of the 6 weeks, I can show you that I have implemented these routines into my life to make it more livable, more enjoyable, and more supportive of the season I'm in right now, my soft season. If you want to follow along with the smaller daily check ins, I am sharing those on my Instagram stories. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to use that 50% off code YouTube to get this framework for yourself so you can start implementing change now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.